Welcome to the lecture on static variables. So let's go to the material folder, variable and constants, example 10, static variables. So in this lecture we're going to define a static variable and print it, and this way you'll get to know how to use a static variable and when to use the static variable. We're going to do that. So for part of that we'll create this file. Let's go to Sublime. So let's write a function called counter, and I want to print the counter. Okay, let's say counter is 1 and say counter count is equal to count plus 1. We haven't covered operators yet, but it's simple to understand that if counter is a variable, we are adding plus 1 to it. Okay, there's a separate section on operators where we're going to deep down into all the operators that we have for PHP. But this is a simple operator plus operator, and you can add any integer to it. Now what I want to do is I want to call this counter 5 times, and I want to see what will happen to the counter and what it will display. Okay, so let's print this counter. Okay, it's not printing 1 to 5, but it's printing all 1. This is because the $count is a local variable to this function, and whenever you recall the function, this variable will be recreated and assigned with 1. But what if you want to assign it once and you want the function to remember that variable and you want to print 1 to 5, right? So how are you going to do that? Let's copy this. And then we're going to add h1 tag. And say static variables. I'm going to call this counter static. Okay, and the keyword to use is called a static. That's all. That's the whole magic of using static. So you call this variable as static, and then we'll verify this, and you know it's 1 2 3 4 5, because when you use a static variable, the static variable will not die off when the function is finished. The static variable is still available for you to access, and whenever you are initializing a static variable, it doesn't reinitialize again. Well, the keyword static will help the count variable not to reinitialize again. That's one of the help. And then it try to remember count, right? Because when you try to do count and count plus 1, it remember what is the previous value of count, and then it will store this value, and even the function is finished, it still holds that value, so you are still able to access that counter. Okay, so that's the one classic use case of a static variable, wherein you have a variable inside your method and you want to hold the state of that method, and whatever value that variable has, you want to re-access it, and you want to use that variable for your processing. And the most common use cases is the use of the counters or use of any running numbers. Okay, so that's all for this lecture. I'm going to see you in the next one.